Have you ever wanted to turn back time? Well, the truth is that time is something we never get back. Maybe that leaves you feeling a little regretful or maybe sad about years that have been wasted or time not well spent on the things that really matter. Well, here's some powerful encouragement for all of us today. God promises that He takes back time. Listen to Joel 2, verse 25. I will restore the years that the locust has eaten. This is a promise that was given to God's people who had suffered the complete destruction of their entire harvest through swarms of locusts destroying the crops and multiplying their number as they went. For 4 consecutive years, the harvest was completely wiped out. God's people were brought to their knees in more ways than one. But the Lord became jealous, it says, for His land, and He had pity on His people. God says in verse 18 and 19, behold, I am sending to you grain, wine, and oil, and you will be satisfied. Well, in the coming years, God said their fields would yield an abundance that would make up for all that they had lost. He actually says this in verse 24 and 26 of Joel 2. The threshing floor shall be full of grain. The vats shall overflow with wine and oil. You shall eat in plenty and be satisfied. Well, that's a wonderful promise, isn't it? For those people, meant for the many years that they would have abundant harvests that would follow all those years of desolation that the locusts had brought. But God has also put this promise in the Bible for us today. I mean, what do those lost years look like for you, for me? Well, lost years or locust years, they come in many varieties. Some with a lot of pain, some with lack of fruitfulness, some selfish, some loveless, some rebellious years or unproductive years. Do you hear what this scripture is telling us? God can restore yours and my lost locust years. And He does that in a very personal way. See, the word restore literally means comfort and redemption. It means to be comforted and to be liberated. In the Bible, there's a great story of Ruth and Boaz. Without going into all the details of that story, Boaz redeems all the years that were lost by Ruth by making a commitment as a family member to stand up and champion her as a member of his family. It was a decisive action on his part to pay whatever it costs in order for Ruth and her family to have freedom, release, and restoration. You know, all the broken years of Ruth's life were restored through this act of Boaz. He paid the cost and he welcomed her into his family. Do you see it? That's what Jesus does for us. He sees our broken past. He sees the years that the locust or the enemy has stolen from us, and He pays the ultimate cost with His very life so that we can be free. We can be released from the past and restored into a new life, an abundant life. God takes back time, and it's personal. God restores lost years by giving us Himself. In verse 27, it says, you shall know that I am in the midst of Israel and that I am the Lord your God. I know this to be true in my own life. You see, God brought me comfort and great redemption in our family after years that the enemy had stolen from us. With rebellious teenagers and broken relationships, He gave us His very self. He comforted us, and He's now giving us a bountiful harvest that we never could have imagined or even asked for. You see, He takes what seems like a waste and He turns it into something beautiful if we'll let Him. Our lost years, they're never lost with God. Whatever time you think is lost, give it to God. Ask Him to restore it. He's a God that takes back time and He turns it into a bumper crop. That's courageous living.